WOON Woonsocket.
This ON AM and FM weather forecast is sponsored by Inferno Audio for remote car starters and for copies of your car keys at prices far lower than the dealership. See Keith at Inferno Audio, 160 Clinton Street in Woonsocket. Visit infernoaudio.com. Becoming mostly sunny today with a high of 58 degrees and calm wind. Tonight, increasingly cloudy, overnight low of 43, a 20% chance of some showers. Sunday's weather, 30% chance of rain, mainly before 8 a.m. and after 10 a.m. Patchy fog, otherwise cloudy with a high of 64 degrees and a wind from the south up to 30 miles per hour. Saturday night, rain, 100% chance, 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch of rain is possible overnight Sunday night. South wind up to 35 miles per hour. Monday, more rain, high of 58, south wind. Monday night, rain tapers off, 60% chance, mostly cloudy skies, overnight low of 37. Tuesday, mostly sunny and 56. Wednesday, mostly sunny and 59. Thursday, mostly cloudy with a high of 58. Thursday night, good chance of rain and 38. Friday, partly sunny skies, high of 47.
And currently outside the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Avenue and Kennedy Street, we have just about 44 degrees, which is up from 39 when I got into the studio this morning. Welcome to the Cheap Seats with Pat and Kevin. This is a Kevin-free Saturday, truly. He is still down in Florida on his annual voyage to see his son play. So I'm manning the ship today solo. We do have Tyler Hetu from the Sun Chronicle is going to be calling in just after the first break, and we'll talk Patriots free agency week kicked off. So we'll get his thoughts on the free agents that were signed, and potentially I'll pick his brain on where he thinks they're going to go in the upcoming draft. But first, we're going to do our local updates. Last Sunday, over at Schneider Arena at Providence College, the Division I Boys State Hockey Championship. Bishop Hendricken secured its fourth consecutive Boys Hockey State Championship with a dramatic 3-2 triple overtime victory over Prout. Game-winning sequence was just a perfect display of teamwork, composure under pressure. Senior Aiden Kraft set up the play. Junior Mason Crane unselfishly passed up a shot and sent it across to senior Frank Tillinghast, who sealed his legacy by burying the puck into the net. With that shot, Tillinghast not only secured the win, but also cemented himself as a 4-year champion. This marks Hendricken's 11th state title overall, adding to the program's storied history. The Hawks were previously named co-champions with Mount St. Charles in the shortened season, COVID season in 2021, but this time they stand on top alone. I was at the Division II championship game, which had East Greenwich, Tollgate co-op team. They defeated Portsmouth 4-3 in overtime to win their first Division II boys hockey championship. East Greenwich Tollgate senior forward Jack Kiernan had a championship to celebrate. In the full extra period, it would only delay that party. The senior carved out space in the crease, and his opportunity to play hero wasn't missed. Kiernan poked in the game winner just 35 seconds into overtime against Portsmouth. The co-op toppled Portsmouth, the league's defending champion, in overtime, and it's a second year. This is only East Greenwich's second year as a co-op team with Tollgate. They finished 22-2 this season, which was the best in the league, and they were best from start to finish in the league all time. They were led by Kiernan, who starred for the co-op. The senior also scored the game winner against Cumberland in the semifinal, and he was named the tournament's most valuable player. Over in the girls hockey Division I, LaSalle girls hockey team topped Smithfield, Coventry, Mose Brown, and co-op 2-0 to win the girls hockey championship. Seniors Eliza Barker and Maddie Bradley scored the Rams goals. Bradley was named the tournament MVP. This was the third straight year these teams met in the title game, with Smithfield coming on top the last two. Basketball, congratulations to the 2025 Division I girls champion, North Kingstown. In Division II, Narragansett. And in Division III, the Lincoln School. And over in the boys' side, Division I, LaSalle Academy. Division II, Moses Brown. In Division III, Mount Hope. The 2025 state championship games start actually today's games down at the Rhode Island URI Ryan Center, the semifinal of the state tournament. Girls semifinal is set for 12 o'clock today. Number 1 seeded North Kingstown versus number 5 Moses Brown at 12. And at 2, number 2 Punagansett versus number 6 Portsmouth, with the final scheduled for tomorrow at 4:30. And in the boys' side, number 1 LaSalle Academy will face off against number 4 Central at 4 p.m. And then number 3 Classical will face off against number 2 Bishop Hendricken at 6. And again, their finals will be scheduled for tomorrow at 6:30 at the Ryan Center. Over to college basketball. Big game this morning over at Bryant University, who defeated UAlbany on Tuesday evening. I was in the Chase Athletic Center for that game. Playing without junior Raphael Pinchon, Bryant used America East Player of the Year Earl Timberlake, as well as Keyshawn Mitchell and Barry Evans, who all scored 20 points to pace the top-seeded Bryant men's basketball team past the number 4 seed UAlbany, 85-63 in the semifinals of the 2025 Jersey Mike's America East men's basketball playoffs. With the win, the Bulldogs improved to 22-11 overall. They advanced to the America East Championship, which is being played this morning at the Chase Athletic Center. Bryant will host the number 3 seeded Maine Black Bears, a 57-42 victor over the number 2 Vermont on Tuesday night as well. Tip-off is set for 11 a.m. That game can be seen on ESPN2. Big East, Providence, unfortunately lose to Butler 75-69 in the opening round of the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden. Friars now finish the season 12-20. It's only their second 20-loss season in program history. Bensley Joseph led Providence with 20 points, while Oswin Ernamunzi added a double-double with 16 points and 11 rebounds. Over to college hockey last night. In Hamden, Connecticut, the Quinnipiac Bobcats captured a 4-1 victory in Game 1 of the ECAC quarterfinal series over Brown. The Bears dropped to 14-3. This was last night at M&T Bank Arena. Coach Whitted said, we did some things well tonight. We just need to be much more consistent. Obviously, Quinnipiac is a very gifted hockey team. They have some great skill. If you make a mistake, they'll make you pay for it. So they will play again today. I believe that face-off is set for sometime later this afternoon. But the Bobcats finished the night with a 30-21 edge in shots on goal. Brown recorded 13 block shots compared to 12 for Quinnipiac. Both teams went 1 for 3 on the power play. Brown and Quinnipiac, they square off their second game of the ECA. It's a best-of-3 quarterfinal is today at 4 p.m., and it will stream live on ESPN+. Providence College hockey down in Connecticut at Stores. Number 7 Providence College men's hockey team, unfortunately, were defeated by the number 8 Yukon Huskies 3-1 in the Hockey East quarterfinals at Toscano Family Ice Forum. In the Hockey East is, I believe, it's the only tournament that is single elimination. Every other league does a best-of-3 until you get down to the semifinals. So Providence is now out of the Hockey East playoffs. Does look like they'll secure a spot in the NCAA, but they were led by, obviously goalie Philip Svedback had 26 saves. UConn was led by goalie Tyler Muzelik, 32 saves. And just a tough loss for them, but a great season. They made a push to get into the playoffs. So they're next up. They'll wait for the NCAA tournament, which begins on March 27th. The NCAA selection show will air on March 23rd at 7 p.m. on ESPNU. A little bit of college baseball. URI, after knocking off in-state foe Bryant on Tuesday 7-1, they held on in their A10 opening game for a 5-4 victory over VCU last night down in Virginia. Rhodey now sits at 9-8. And they were led by Jeremy Urena, who is from Johnston. So he pitched for them last night and picked up the win, pitching 5 innings. So, and then just a little update for Kevin. I know he's down there checking out Tim. Lacella's having, so far, in my opinion, they're having a great start to their season. I believe they're 5-4 down in Florida, and they sit at 7-5 overall. And Tim is, I think he's currently batting .500 after the first 12 games of the season. So again, another great start to the season for Tim Callahan. I'm sure Kevin's enjoying every minute of it down there, watching him in the great weather of Florida. Next up, let's see. We have a couple soccer. New England Revolution. They'll try to get in the win column tonight as they face NYFC at 7:30 in New York. They're coming off a home loss 2-0 last Saturday against Philadelphia Union. That game can be seen on Apple TV, the Apple TV streaming app with the MLS subscription. And then RIFC, the Rhode Island Football Club, they open up their season tonight on the road versus the Charleston Battery at 7:30. That game can be seen on WPRI TV's My RI TV, which they'll show, I believe it's 5 games this season. If you have ESPN Plus, I think you can probably get it on ESPN Plus as well. So we're going to take our first break. And then I have a couple callers on the phone. Tyler Hito will be joining us, and I believe I have Marty on the phone. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
ON 1240.
The latest Buick and GMC models are available at Tasker Buick GMC in Woonsocket. Buick Encore, Envision, Enclave, and Envista are on the lot waiting for you to take one for a test drive. New GMC crossovers, SUVs, as well as trucks and vans are also available. Thinking of a pre-owned vehicle? Tasker Buick GMC has more than 900 in stock, many under $15,000. Visit online, TaskerBuickGMC.com, or stop into 55 Fortin Drive, Woonsocket. Tasker Buick GMC, you will be satisfied.
Lincoln and North Smithfield Urgent Care Centers are Northern Rhode Island's modern comprehensive urgent cares devoted to the best family health care available. They have board-certified doctors on their staff who will make you feel safe, comfortable, and reassured, especially when you're in doubt and concerned about the severity of your discomfort. Both centers feature on-site labs and x-ray facilities, as well as drug screens, complete physicals, flu shots, occupational medicine, including workers' comp and free blood screening. North Smithfield Urgent Care, 594 Great Road, North Smithfield, 768-3400. Open Monday through Friday 9 to 8 and Saturday 9 to 5. Lincoln Urgent Care, located across from Lincoln Mall, 333-9595. Open weekdays 9 to 9, Saturday and Sunday 9 to 5. You do have a choice.
A new garage door can have a major effect on the appearance of your property. When you're ready, call Andy Bebo at Woonsocket Door Sales, in business since 1935. Woonsocket Door Sales installs and repairs all makes of doors and openers, as well as broken springs and cables. Service includes installation and free disposal of the old door. Woonsocket Door Sales, 767-3448. Office located at 1 Biltmore Avenue, Cumberland. Reputation is important.
The world-class distributor of all things electrical is Electrical Wholesalers. They are a full-service electrical distributor with branches throughout Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. Locally, they're at 113 Clinton Street next to KFC here in Woonsocket, with other locations in Cranston and Franklin, Massachusetts. Electrical Wholesalers provides the highest quality service to electrical contractors as well as residential, commercial, and industrial customers. Electrical Wholesalers is open Monday through Friday, 7 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. Visit ew-ne.com. Electrical Wholesalers.
WOON Woonsocket Radio, ON, AM, and FM.
And welcome back to the Cheap Seats with Pat and Kevin. I am Pat Holland. We're going to be joined by Tyler Hoodoo in just one second. I just wanted to say one thing. I'm heading down to the Ryan Center after this show. I'm going to be broadcasting the girls' semifinals game. So if you get it, and I say this all the time, you don't hear it enough out there. You hear all the bad that happens on the news, especially with the youth, but you don't hear the good. So these kids are out there pouring their hearts out, playing athletics, whether it's whether it's sports, whether it's the arts programs, get out there and support the local youth. Head down to the Ryan Center, get a ticket, watch. There's some great athletes out there. I've been privileged enough to start calling games both in Mass and Rhode Island now, and it's tremendous to see the talent that's out there. But I say it all the time. If you get out there, it's a good take. It's relatively cheap. You bring your kids down there, get them exposed to the athletics in the local schools, and it's a great take. So I'm going to bring Tyler Heatu on right now. Give me 1 second. Tyler, you there? Tyler, are you there?
Yep, sure am.
All right, great. Perfect. Sorry about that. I had a little technical difficulty there. So, Tyler, appreciate you taking the time to call in. I know you cover the Patriots for the Sun Chronicle, so anytime we're going to talk, NFL or Pats, you're our go-to. So obviously a busy week. Things are starting to ramp up on their end in terms of the free agency, the start of the new the new league season, plus the whole legal tampering period, which started I think Monday, right? Monday to Wednesday was a legal tampering period, and then Wednesday starts a new season. And obviously the Patriots are quite active in going after some of these free agents out in the market. Although they only retained one player that I'm aware of, Austin Hooper. But what are your thoughts so far on their acquisitions? And I mean, I have my own thoughts in theories behind some of the moves they've made, but they seem to have stacked up on the defensive end and the defensive end of things, plus maybe trying to legitimize their offensive line a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Monday was probably the most active we've seen them in the last couple of years. Like you said, they aggressively went out after defense. They grabbed a stud cornerback and an interior lineman. They had a good, healthy mix of pass and run stoppers, which is obviously important. They were one of the worst defenses in the league. I mean, we just have to look at the numbers, bottom 5 in most significant categories. And in a league where defense wins championships, as you saw with the Eagles this past year, I mean, can you blame them going after defense first? Yeah. They also got an offensive guard or offensive tackle. They went out and got not some game-changing moves in terms of offensive weapons, but they were pickups nonetheless. So
yeah, some depth,
finally,
after stuff, right?
After a long time of us saying they need to do something, they're finally doing something. So I think it's pretty nice to see that they're finally making moves.
Yeah, and I think obviously the big signing was the defensive tackle Milton Williams. They grabbed the cornerback Carlton Davis, obviously extending them 4 years, $104 million for Williams, and 3 years, $60 million for Davis. And then they bring in a player like Harold Landry, who I think had a relatively career season last year, and so they're expecting bigger things out of him. And I like the addition of Spillane. I think he's a good fit for them. And then Morgan Moses obviously is the big offensive tackle. The one signing that made me kind of go, where they bring in a Josh Dobbs, and maybe they're going to try to move on from Milton, and get what they can, right? I mean, and then some of I think my theory was because they've stacked up on the defensive end, and no doubt I agree with you, like they were the worst on the defense, so it makes sense to start there. They didn't fill a lot of the pieces that they needed on the offensive side, but I think they did fill enough, which makes me think that they're probably, if Hunter's there at 4, they're going to take him, unless they take the tackle, which I think is still up in the air, right?
There's 2 offensive linemen that kind of have caught some early first round, like top 10 potential, like eyes from like general managers and scouts. One of them, I believe he's a tackle from Missouri. I can't pronounce his name. And then there's also Will Campbell from LSU, although Will Campbell is projected to slip a little bit, maybe towards closer to 10 than 1. So the opportunity to go out and get another lineman is there in the draft. Personally, I think there's a chance where they could trade back from 4, maybe get a player out of it, maybe drop back to something like 6 or 7 potentially, and go out and get a wide receiver. But also, we've talked about the draft for years. The Cole Strange draft, they could have gone out and got a cornerback before they ended up getting Gonzalez because Trent McDuffie was there, and he's now a stud cornerback for the Chiefs. Ultimately, they get Cole Strange, and it completely deviates from everything we thought. And then the next year, they get Gonzalez, and since then, they've been hit or miss in draft picks. So I think 4 is a safe pick, regardless of where you go. I mean, you can get a generational tackle. You can get Abdul Carter, another edge rusher that's going to be generational. Luther Burden, wide receiver, going to be great. Ted McMillan, going to be great. So, I think they've set up to a point where, they're leaving 1 hole, maybe 2 holes open for rookies to get a chance to start. But also, we're 1 week into free agency. There's plenty of time for them to make another move. So, I wouldn't push the panic button just yet. I mean, it's the 15th of March. There's plenty of time for us to watch this sort of take hold with variable.
Yeah, and ultimately, and I haven't been following this as in detail. I mean, obviously, I'm more invested in, at this point, I was more invested in what was going on with the Bruins, and now spring training with the Red Sox and seeing what's going on down there. But I did see, Vrabel's a guy who he's setting the culture up, right? He wants, in I think he said it. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but he did have a little bit of a press conference where he said, "Hey, we want guys who want to play here. I don't want guys who don't want to play here," which is probably why they sent Godchild down to New Orleans, right? He's a guy who was pretty outspoken last year, and it's like, listen, you don't want to be here, go somewhere else. And
they made moves to it was essentially a lateral move, I would say.
Yeah.
In moving Godshaw, you get the 2026 7th round pick from the Saints, and you get Kyrus Tonga, who's not, it's not a sexy move, so to say, but, you knew what you had with Godshaw. You knew you could get a return out of it. And like you said, he didn't want to play here. So, no hard feelings. Go chase a ring or whatever you want. Go get paid. We'll bring in a guy that, can play your role, which is third down edge rusher, third down pass stopper. And, they're bringing in their guys. And I hate that phrase personally, because I feel like it never ends well when teams are like, we want our guys. But from what I've seen with Vrabel, he's getting men in the trenches. He wants hard, physical players, guys that want to compete and want to win. And obviously, I think the guys that he's bringing in have bought into what he's selling with Drake May and Gonzalez and these cornerstone pieces to a team that's very close to being a potential wild card team.
Yeah, there's obviously some pieces missing, especially on the offensive end. I'd like to see what they're going to do with it. And honestly, obviously Cooper Kupp goes to Seattle last night. I think he on a 3-year deal, right? I'm not sure I'd give him a 3-year deal, although in the NFL, those contracts are, they essentially mean nothing anyway. But I'm not sure if he, without having a true number 1 receiver, if he is the answer anyway. Like, he's certainly an upgrade, but at this point in his career, is he truly going to come in and be able to be a number 1, where he's always been outside of maybe several years ago where he had true upside, where he's kind of worked off of the number one guy. But, outside of the draft, there are still a couple free agents out there, probably for a reason, right? You got the Diggs, who he comes with a whole boatload of questions everywhere he goes, right? Well, why are they moving on him if he's such a talent? Well, because he's a cancer in the locker room or whatever the case may be. I did like this kid that they picked up yesterday, Marcus Epps, and I think it's more of an upside mood, right? He's a guy who's coming off of ACL surgery, I think. So it's more like, hey, we're going to give this guy an opportunity because he had a lot of upside before he got injured, and now if we can get him back close to that, then it's a win-win. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. On the from a offensive line standpoint, obviously moving on from Andrews, I wanted to get your feelings on that. I have my own, but I'll let you give yours.
Yeah, moving on from Andrews I think it's tough because those types of leaders in the locker room are a dime a dozen. He was always one of the first, if not the first, maybe the second guys to talk to us after tough losses, especially the last 2-3 years where just things weren't going their way. And you could tell, it was kind of wearing on some of the guys. Andrews would come in and you could just tell by his face and his general attitude that he didn't want to talk to us, but he did. And that's, something that, you got to appreciate, especially in sports nowadays where there's a lot of personalities and there's a lot of guys that, are very outspoken and they kind of clash with the media. So, I think he's going to be missed. But I think there's a new kind of era of how things are going to be run in the locker room going forward, especially with Vrabel. He's a guy that's come in and won and knows how to win. So I could see maybe Andrews re-signs a 1 year, maybe a little cheaper.
Sure.
But also I know that he's coming off injury and he's hurt.
And maybe they know. They know, right?
Yeah.
Like where things stand with him. And I think his play had started to kind of digress a little bit, obviously. But, people are like, listen, I love the guy too. I think he was a team first guy. And I agree with you. He was always there, especially when times are tough and those guys are showing their face still and still being the team guys. That's when you go, hey, this guy, that's a character. He has great character, right? So, and those are the guys you want. But when the play starts to degrade, and I think he's been challenged with injuries the last several years. So, at some point you just got to go maybe we need to step away. Almost similar to, I don't want to compare it to what the Bruins just did with Marchand, but same type of thing, right? Hey, you're getting older. You're injured more often than you're not, or you've had major surgeries in the off season and you've bounced back, but you're not quite where you were. Maybe it's time for both of us to step away. We're rebuilding now. It's not the mid 2000s and even into the 2015s. It's 2020, 24, 2025, and we have a top 10 draft pick, right? That says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I've heard it both from everywhere where it's like, oh, how do they let this guy go? And it's like, well, I think the move is Strange is going to slot into that center position, right?
I have no idea. I think just the general consensus is just to get younger.
Right.
I say that as they go out and get a 34-year-old tackle.
True.
But they need to get younger. They need to find guys that are going to be around a while. Guys that want to stay around a while, have an 8 to 12-year career, and bring some stability. It's been a revolving door at offensive line for the Patriots for the last couple of years. And Andrews was kind of that stalwart center. So I also think it's going to be tough to just find a center that is going to be reliable and dependable and build up that rapport with May right away. But I mean, trust the process. Trust what Vrabel's going to do. I'm not going to lie and say I have insider info that they're going to go out and get a center.
Right.
But it's gonna stink, not having Andrews around. But I would not be shocked if Strange moves into that center role. He's played, I think it feels like every single other position on the offensive line. So why not try him out at center?
Yeah. All right, Tyler, you want to stay on? We're going to take a break, and then we can come back and try to finish this up, or maybe pivot into. I know you're a Revs guy too, so we could pivot into Revs tonight.
Oh, geez, the Revs.
Or maybe not.
That's been a hot topic as of late.
Yeah. All right. So hold on. We'll be right back after these messages.
Your station for news and sports. ON 1240.
When you visit State Line Services website, you'll see a wealth of information about them and the 20 kinds of specialties they offer, including cooling system maintenance, emission testing, exhaust systems, and computerized engine analysis. Because today's vehicles are a complicated piece of equipment with a network of sensors that monitor your vehicle's performance. In other words, you need an expert. State Line Service and Tire Center, 1209 Social Street, Woonsocket, at the State Line, 765-0146. New customers are welcome.
When disaster strikes, trust the experts at Service Master by Gilmore. From water and fire restoration to mold remediation and emergency cleanup, we've been restoring peace of mind for over 40 years, now proudly serving all areas, including our newest service location in Rhode Island. No job is too big or too small. Day or night, we're here for you. Call Service Master by Gilmore at 1-800-783-0552 or visit us at the web at www.svmgilmore.com. Restoration done right every time.
Are you looking to beautify your property this spring? Look to A.J. Moran for stonework patios, steps, walkways, plus retaining walls. Are you looking to beautify your home this spring? A.J. Moran can put veneer stone right on your house to have beautiful looking stone. And if that's not what you want, A.J. Moran can rebuild indoor fireplaces with veneer stone. It's real natural stone. Check out what they can do online, ajmoraninc.com. A.J. Moran.
And welcome back to the Cheap Seats with Pat and Kevin. Joined again by Tyler Hitu of the Sun Chronicle. Tyler, again, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Let's see. We'll finish up the Pats talk. Obviously, again, like you said, it's obviously early in the draft. I mean, we could talk for hours about what we think could happen, what we think should happen, what are they actually going to do, and the fact is that nobody really knows, and it's it's a new regime, so will they trade down? Who knows? There's certainly some players that are out there. If you are going to use that pick, I think you take the best player, the best athlete available at the time, unless you think you can trade back or someone wants that pick. But there are at least two wide receivers. I think obviously with Hunter and then Tet McMillan. Although I tend to look at the Arizona wide receivers and go like, oh, we can't do this again, can we? But he seems to be a phenomenal receiver, and he's huge, 6'5", 210. So I'm good either way. How much credibility do you put into the whole offensive line thing in terms of the combine and the basically Campbell's stock is dropping because the length of his arms, right? There's a certain parameter that they want to see you in. I think he's at like just about 33 inches of how long his arms are.
Yeah, it's like 33 and a quarter.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact number, but that realistically is why his draft stock is dropping. I was never an offensive lineman. I'm
right.
6'2", like $170 on a good day. So I can't tell you the importance of arm length, especially by difference of a couple inches. But the fact of it is, if he can't perform, he can't perform. But from what I've seen, he's He significantly has improved over his last couple of years at LSU, and he could be great
in the best college football, division, the SEC. I mean, he's playing against top players day in and day out. I also, I'm a big local guy fan at BC. I know Ozzie Trapillo has been at least mentioned in part of with the Patriots, and I was looking into him. We're actually working on potentially having him on as a guest. I'd love to pick his brain just in terms of the whole college, starting with without the NIL. Now the NIL was there, and getting his insight on that, and then talking to him a little bit about the combine and that whole process. But I was looking at his stats and noticed, he's in a similar situation as Will Campbell. Now, obviously, Will Campbell was talked about being a top 10 pick. Ozzie's probably somewhere third roundish. I think he's the 15th ranked lineman. Again, 33 and like just about a 33-inch arm length. And it's like, I'm like, wow, is that really? Andy's he's a big tackle. I think he started out as a guard at BC and then, ended up playing left and right tackle. But his frame, he's like 6'8". So his issue is he's too tall. So guys they get under him easier. But he, he excelled in his junior year and then his senior year. So, it'd be interesting to see if he's in the mix at some point. I'm not a big believer in like you have to go out and get, if you want to rebuild your line, you have to go out and get the best lineman, because that doesn't always pan out either. So it'd be interesting to see where they go with that, or if they just rebuild it from the outside in, like, free agents, and not everybody is drafting the top linemen in the league, right? In most of these teams have pretty decent offensive lines. Some of them start there, especially on the tackle side. But, have you heard any talk?
Drafting offensive linemen always makes me nervous because, you can go out and get what looks like a sure bet in the top 5, top 10, and then, a passable first 3-4 seasons, gets an extension, and the next thing you know, it's a replacement level player. He's been acceptable and been fine, but like Cole Strange, for example, I would say not worth a late first-round pick.
Right.
And the Patriots are kind of, I don't want to say stuck with him, but they are, because he's been part of the system for a few years. He's been okay, and really there's not many better options out there, especially some that are young. So
right. And then you look
drafting offensive linemen at 4. That always makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how it's going to translate. Sure, SEC talent or SEC competition in college, that helps, but you never know. The offensive linemen come in and out of the league so frequently.
Yeah, I had this conversation with even Kevin. We go down the rabbit hole, and it's like, hey, nothing about the NFL draft is guaranteed, right? Or any draft, that is. You could play the hindsight game all the time. Well, they drafted this guy, and look at these receivers they could have had after the fact. It was like, yeah, but so couldn't have all the other teams that let them go, right? You can't scout everybody, and you go with your best instinct based on the stats and the scouting that you've done, and you make a best educated decision, right? It's a guesstimate, but it's your basically you get as much information together to make that pick. And then you can't worry about we drafted this guy, but we could have had DK, or we could have had, this guy, or we could have had this guy. It's like, yeah, so couldn't have all the other teams that let him go before them.
Draft hindsight is always 20/20.
Oh, it's brutal.
People always 4 or 5 years down the road, it's like, how would we redraft the 2020 draft? And obviously, it's going to look good on paper now,
right? Because you have the answers to the test.
Yeah, you have the answers years after the fact. But in the moment, I remember, people pick N'Keal Harry, or the Patriots pick N'Keal Harry, and people are like, this is going to be a great pick. He's going to be the guy. And I think we all know how that story ended.
in the
same thing with same thing with every Patriots receiver the last couple of years.
When they traded, I think they traded back up. Did they trade back into the first round to pick up Gronk?
I don't.
And that was like a questionable pick at the time. Now he's like, one of the best tight ends ever to play in the game, and nobody's questioning that draft pick anymore.
No,
because he had major back issues at Arizona.
Very sparingly played in college too,
right.
Which kind of made it a risky play.
But now it's
didn't even interview well, according to Gronk.
Well,
he said it after the fact on Edelman's podcast. He's like, I didn't interview well, but they took him.
Right, and yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that. And that's all. I mean, you got these guys who make their living off of the NFL draft, right? Mel Kiper, right? It's like, how often is he right? I'm sure he's
more often than I think he's
well,
right.
That's probably true.
I think he's right. I think he's right more than I think he is.
Right. If you look back and somebody actually did the analysis on it, I'm sure he is probably closer than everyone else. And now everyone's in on that game, right? Everyone's putting together their mock drafts and what they think everyone's going to do. And so, yeah, I mean, he was the first one in, and I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is more right because, let's see. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. They definitely need to shore up the wide receiver additions. I mean, I think Mac Hollins, I like him. I like him maybe because, I don't know him well, but I've seen him. I mean, he has had some good games for Buffalo against the Patriots. So, I don't say he's like similar to a Kupp, but he plays that same game, right? That same route running. He's a inside route runner, quick across the middle. Similar to what we've had here before in Amendola and those guys. So it'll be interesting to see how he pans out. But I don't think he's the answer. I
would call him a placeholder or a bridge guy.
Yep.
I think Amendola, that type of prototype of player, I think that's a good barometer as to what to expect. Maybe he comes out, has 5 catches for 80, and then the next week maybe 2 catches for 14 yards.
Right.
I think that's probably what we're looking at. Expecting him to be the wide receiver 1 and run a deep route 7 to 10 times a game it's just unrealistic expectations. Calling him a Cooper Kupp, maybe that ceiling is too high a little bit.
Right.
But I think he could have good days. Put him in as a slot receiver, kind of like that blanket, like safety net for Drake May. He's a very, very eccentric personality, so I think that's going to be a fun addition to the locker room. But also, it's a proven receiver, better than Jalen Polk, better than Javon Baker, and we don't need to speculate that. We know it already, and that means it's already a positive. It's already an upgrade from what they have. Right.
All right, so we can pivot just to the Revs quickly. They're in New York tonight. I'm a season ticket holder. I haven't been to any games yet, but obviously huge injury last week. So I don't know. Are they better than last year? Maybe on paper they are, but do you see them, doing much this year, or is it still a rebuild?
I wouldn't say better than last year because that's still yet to be seen. This team can't score simply enough. Like that's just the story. They can't score right now. Caleb Porter brings in all his guys, and we touched on earlier about how bringing in your guys, quote unquote, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think you see in soccer, especially in Europe and in Spain and Portugal and all that, bringing in your guys, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And then you need to tear it down all over again. And I think there's some fear that it might not work out and that, we could be seeing a new head coach on the sideline again for the Revs by June, potentially at the latest. So they need to start scoring. They need to start winning. That's obviously easier said than done. But if they don't, it could be another 1-2 year rebuilding process for the Revs. And obviously, season ticket holders probably don't want to hear that, and they're going to be frustrated and probably get rid of their season tickets. But I think at this point, you need to look at what you got and people getting hurt and the roster turnover and say, this is a possibility and we need to be ready for it.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And it doesn't help that they got really good things going on right down 95 here in Rhode Island with RIFC opening up their brand new stadium and coming off of their inaugural season success, losing in the finals. So I don't want to say I'm all in on RIFC, but they're closer for me down here than and I think the Revs right now it's a cluster over there. Like, they can't get out of their own way. They can't get the stadium deal done, which should have been done years ago. You got it's and they're going to lose. They're ultimately going to lose. I mean, I'm on social media, and you see them posting stuff about tonight's game, and you got half of the posts are going like, yeah, well, I'm going to be out watching RIFC because they get a brand new stadium, and you guys can't get that done. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the course of this year. But they do have some talent. They just haven't been able to put it all together, and maybe that's Porter's kind of fundamental, like his approach to the game just doesn't fit in with what we have fully, which is why he's trying to bring in all his guys. But it's unfortunate. So, we're up against it, Tyler. I really appreciate your time in coming on, and obviously your knowledge of the Patriots and what's going on over there. And so again, thank you for coming on today in Kevin's absence. And then I follow you on social media, and you do a fantastic job. You're all over the place. So it's I think you're, I don't know, you call it Twitter, X, whatever they're calling it is, at the Tyler Hedo.
Yes. I'll be in, for potential Massachusetts listeners, I'll be up in Lowell tonight covering Wachusett and the Bishop Dayton Girls State Championship D1 basketball. Also, was listening a little earlier. Love the plug for Rhode Island State Championship games. I think that's awesome. You always got to show the love to the local levels, because
it's where it starts.
Sometimes it's overlooked.
Yeah, and you do a great job, obviously, at the Hawk and covering all those games. And, I mean, all you guys out there do a fantastic job, covering those games locally, and even at the state level once you get to, the state tournaments, which is huge now, because they're all over the place. So thank you again. We're going to take our final break, and we'll be back after this.
ON 1240.
The latest Buick and GMC models are available at Tasker Buick GMC in Woonsocket. Buick Encore, Envision, Enclave, and Envista are on the lot waiting for you to take one for a test drive. New GMC crossovers, SUVs, as well as trucks and vans are also available. Thinking of a pre-owned vehicle? Tasker Buick GMC has more than 900 in stock, many under $15,000. Visit online, TaskerBuickGMC.com, or stop into 55 Fortin Drive, Woonsocket. Tasker Buick GMC, you will be satisfied.
Don't look now, but spring is right around the corner. Get out those golf clubs and head over to Lewis Quistit Golf Club, located right in the city of North Providence. Lewis Quistit offers a stunning 9-hole course designed by U.S. Open champion Ken Venturi. Whether you're looking for a fun, challenging round of golf or just a relaxing day surrounded by rolling hills, oak trees, natural wetlands, this is the perfect spot. With tee times available 7 days a week, fantastic court conditions, and a welcoming atmosphere both for members and the public, Lewis Quistit is a place to be. And after you're around, don't miss out on great food and drinks at the Pub on One, complete with a scenic golf course view. Contact Lewis Quistit Golf Club at www.lewisquisitgc.com or by calling 401-353-1620.
Michaud's Auto Body is a name you've heard for a long time, and over the years, they've kept up with the very latest technology, including water-based paints used by manufacturers and a full review of the vehicle to be sure that all the technology is performing properly. Michaud's assists with all the details, calling the claims office, scheduling appraisals, arranging rentals, and before you leave, detail your vehicle. All work is 100% guaranteed while you own your car. Michaud's Auto Body, 430 Privilege Street, Woonsocket. Visit MichaudAutoBody.com.
If you're celebrating a major event, regardless of the reason, Michael's Meats of Cumberland can elevate your next meal from ordinary to extraordinary with meats so good your guests will ask you where you got them. Tell them Michael's Meats. Michael's Meats is in the Walgreens parking lot on Mendon Road in Cumberland, just north of the Ciabro Plaza. They're open Monday through Saturday at 9 a.m., making your next meal truly special. Here's this week's specials at Michael's Meats.
Yeah, this week's special at Michael's Meats, Chairman's Reserve Extra Lean Trimmed Pork Tenderloin, $3.99 a pound, just at Michael's Meats. Welcome back to the show. This is the Cheap Seats with Pat and Kevin. I'm going to bring on our normal regular caller, Moose. Moose, you there?
I am. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning. How are you, my man?
I'm fine. It's a very brief comment. I know you only got a few minutes left in the show on the small flicker of light of the Bruins after those two victories last week, and everybody's eyebrows said, well, there's life. There's life, all right. They came back to earth, but what finally bit them again, and that's goaltending. Swayman was awful the other night.
Yeah.
And that's been their thorn the entire year. He has not been good. Their plus-minus differential, Pat, is like 30 goals scored. That's horrible for a team that's hovering above 500. Bad thing about Swayman, and he's not at all here, he always gets beat on the short side.
Yeah.
Always leaves the short, and that's a cardinal sin in hockey for a goalie. Should never get beat on the short side. And he just doesn't get over in time, and he likes to flop down, and he's a short goalie to begin with, Pat. He's not a big goalie.
Yeah.
So him crouching down all the time, and you got all kind of holes there. But to not get to the short side is just something that should never occur for any goalie. That's something that you learn one of the first basics of playing goal. I don't know what you feel about your comments with that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, he struggled all season. He hasn't been able to put it together. I don't think the holdout helped him. I don't think the 2-week break over February helped him. You know, he didn't really play in the Four Nations Cup at all. And he's just struggled. And but he's still a young goalie. I think, unfortunately they got caught in a with two great goalies, right?
With Gomack. That was that was the first step of should we say just a horrible season. You knew they were going downwards when they had trouble with their goalie, and Olmack was hurt. So they put themselves into that position. The Bruins management did. They got hooked with Swayman because they let Olmack go. So they had no choice. So they picked up this Corpusolo guy. Okay, he's a backup goalie. But now, at the beginning of the year and throughout the season, you're stuck with Swayman. You're stuck with him, whether you like it or not. And it turned out to be...
Yeah, for the money, I mean, there's not much you could do now. They had to play him. They had to give him, make him the number one guy instead of really having to earn it. Now you could say, did he earn it last year?
He struggled. He struggled the whole year.
He has certainly struggled.
Nothing short of awful.
And they've struggled in general all around, but it starts. Yeah, I always say it starts in the back. It starts in the back end out.
That's where it is. They pulled him the other night for crying out loud.
Yeah, he
terrible he was.
He looked, and I'm a guy who I'm like, well, hey, if you're gonna sell, right, which they did, they sold everyone. And then you're going to go out and you start putting together wins and potentially making the playoffs. It's like, what are we doing? I'm not saying they should lose games on purpose, but
you can't allow 6 goals. You got to be consistent.
You can't.
No, they've done that so often, allowed 6+ goals throughout the season.
I think we'll see a change at the coaching level. I think they're going to go either. My theory is they're going to go after the guy from Denver who coached the U.S. junior team to back-to-back golds, or their guy is Jay Pandolfo, who is at BU now, who was formerly on their staff.
That might be necessary. A change might be necessary for sure.
For sure.
But there's still 15 games to go. I mean, if you want to hold the light up a little longer, don't give up until you're mathematically out of it.
Well, at this point, I'd rather just give up so we can. They potentially put themselves in position to have 2 top 10 picks. If you're gonna retool, now these players are years away from even ever making a difference, but you got to start somewhere. And
they played so very well with Saturday. The back-to-back wins, they played with a heck of a lot of energy. That was a different team out there.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden, you're going with 6 goals. But that's it. There goes your confidence. All of a sudden, it just dropped right down back to where it was.
It is funny because I watched the the Nesson has the Behind the B show that they put on, and I watched the show that covered the trade deadline, and all these trades happened inside their conference room with essentially all their upper management there, right? And they're wheeling and dealing on the phone and making things make sense. The only deal that didn't happen in that conference room happened down the hall with Don Sweeney left on his own. He came back into the conference room and said, Marshy's going to Florida for a conditional second-round pick. That eventually, and that's the only deal that they made that didn't happen in that room with everyone else there.
Right.
Which I found interesting. And then I finally got to see Marchand.
A lot of people are not happy with Sweeney, what he's done the last couple of years.
Well, and it leads up to this point. I don't disagree with what they've done this year and how they've done it. And at some point, you have to let guys go. I compare this to like the Chicago run. Chicago was great for so many years, but they never retooled. And now they're now look at them. They're
just to
struggling.
fall off the face of the earth.
Right.
I mean, that's exactly what.
Which is
team
what
has
happened.
done.
So, the Bruins had a great run, but they never retooled. Right. They would, they made a run in a couple years ago where they sent major capital to bring in guys to make a run for it.
We just mentioned, and then I'm sure I'll let you go. You only got a couple of minutes. The beginning of the end, the downfalls when they had trouble with Allmark.
Yep.
Here's a guy who won the Vizina for crying out loud. The guy was impenetrable.
Yeah.
And he got hurt towards the end of the season. He never was the same. He didn't play well in the playoffs, as you can tell, against Carolina. I think he gave up 6 or 7 goals in a couple of games.
Yep.
He was just not him. He was hurt. And that residued into the following season, and it bit him throughout the year. Well,
For sure.
all I can say is thank you very much, Pat, and I got 2 words for you. Go Bryant.
There you go. Big game, 11 o'clock tonight. I was there Tuesday night.
Watching.
Fun team to watch. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully they can dominate today. I think Pinchon is back. He had supposedly he had food poisoning Tuesday night. He didn't play at all, and they still dominated UAlbany. It was a great game, great atmosphere.
So I don't know much about them.
Yeah.
But they're 7-point favorite.
Yeah, they knocked off Vermont, which is it's not a slouch. I mean, it's tough to go into Vermont and beat them, and they did.
That's for sure. They've ruled out that division for years. But anyway, go Brian, and thanks for your time, Pat. And
hey, anytime, Moose. Thank you.
We'll talk to you next weekend. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that wraps up our show for today. I'm Pat Holland, Cheap Seats with Pat and Kevin. Kevin will be back next week, so it'll be our normal show. We do have some guests we're working on getting on. I believe we've tentatively we have the president of RIFC coming on April 14th. That'll be all confirmed. We'll send that out, but he is going to come on. We're going to talk about RIFC. Again, they start their season tonight down in Charleston, but their home opener is the first weekend. I think it's May 3rd. Is their home opener at their brand new stadium down at the Tidewater stadium there. So we will have him on, but we'll send out stuff, letting everyone know that should be a good take. We're working on some other in-house guests as well. So again, appreciate everyone listening. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you and the listeners, we can't do this. So we'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend.
Broadcasting live and local daily from the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Avenue and Kennedy Street. This is WOON Woonsocket Radio.